Everyone did find a chair. If someone comes in a little bit later and they're sad and without a chair, point them to the big stack of chairs in the back. We'll be there to help you out. Otherwise, let's dive into this thing. I think it's going to be super fun, and it's going to be super hands-on, as you can see from the canvases that have been passed around. So this is how you get onto the Wi-Fi, super handy. I'm going to keep advancing, but you'll see that there are these nice little honeycombs in the back, so they'll take care of you there. So yes, you've stumbled into Net Squared. I'm going to tell you all about it, but it's kind of super fun. It's super free. I think you're going to have a good time today. So, intros. Hi, my name's Eli. I am one of the organizers of Net Squared Vancouver. I actually have a trio of volunteers up here who are making it happen with me. I've got Jean, I've got Michael, and I've got Sam. So if you want to become one of those people, the cool kids actually making all this happen, come talk to me after the event. This group is actually part of a global network. There are 128 groups in 40-something countries right now. So next time you're in Toronto and you think it's lame, look for the local Net Squared group, and they'll take care of you. Similarly, if you're in Nairobi or in London or in Peterborough or in San Francisco, there's probably a local group next to you. We also have community values. It gets down to the core summary of don't be a jerk, but this is basically our rules for engagement. So first of all, let me turn on my fancy laser. We welcome everyone. It's a true thing. We are desperately working on getting the lift installed into the Hive because that is definitely the one barrier we're still have in place around our events. We're also putting community first, which means we aren't here to do hard sales pitches. This is our place to basically support each other. We're here to serve nonprofits. We invite participation, and you'll see we're going to put you to work several times through the day. And basically, bring your best self. Treat people as if they are bringing their best self to you as well, so bring all your empathy with you. And this thing is all run on the backs of volunteers, which means we need your help. I see we don't have a photographer today. That's very sad. No one's going to see how good you look, which means you have to see my terrible photos, a thing you don't want. So if you're a great photographer, or even an amateur photographer, come talk to me. I'd love to have you here documenting events. Maybe you are a master of all social media. I want to talk to you as well about that. Or maybe you've got an event idea that you think should be here. Talk to me, because I would love to help you become an event producer. We'll take care of all the heavy lifting. You just need to be the expert. We've got a whole pile of sponsors. The core one, who actually covers some of my time in my day job, is TechSoup. So if you're a nonprofit, charity, church, or library, and you're spending money on software, you should come talk with us at TechSoup because we want to save you money. These are some of the partners in the TechSoup catalog. Again, if you buy any of these people's products, you're probably spending too much money if you're not going through TechSoup. So this is a bit of an example of what a typical 10-person organization could actually save with their free TechSoup account. Because TechSoup is a nonprofit like you whose only mission is to make sure that you're using the money for the stuff you are actually supposed to do for mission delivery. Speaking of sponsors, we're here in the Hive as we have been now for almost 4 years. Super grateful. That stability has been so powerful for us to build our community. If you want to become one of the Hivers, this spot right here is actually normally a place where you can come and do a hot desk rental by the hour. And of course, there are free passes available at the front desk. There's also, of course, social. So maybe you are someone who works alone and you're looking for a bit of a community. The Hive can help you out with that. They've also, of course, got all the things you need: photocopiers, an office service so you actually can receive those packages and not have them misdelivered. All that good stuff happens here, plus private meeting spaces. So next time we plan out our next year's worth of events, we're going to sit in that room and we're going to plot and scheme. So yeah. We're big into the Hive, big fans. We've also been sponsored by IATS Payments, which means if you're a nonprofit taking in money with a credit card, you should look at IATS Payments. They're a local company, And they're also going to cover the cost of the first round of drinks after this event, so don't go home early. And then we've got one-day website, making sure our WordPress site does not crash. And we've got our friends at N10 who made sure you have access to healthy fruits and veggies today. Taking care of you. But of course, you also could be a sponsor. If you want to talk to over 2,000 of the nonprofits in the city who are most interested in technology, I can give you a one-way direct ticket to that community. So let's chat. And of course, we're going to keep doing this thing forever and ever. So the thing that's really consuming us is starting on June 11th, we're going to be doing a 1.5-day conference. It's going to be big. It's going to be crazy. There are probably about 15 early bird tickets left. So if you move real fast, you can get it all for just $100. Otherwise, rates are going up. It's about 70% sold. But basically, this is Vule from Nonprofit with Balls, now called Nonprofit AF. We've also got Beth Cantor doing both a keynote and a half-day marketing workshop. We've got all kinds of local experts coming and sharing some case studies. It's going to be super fun. And by the way, there will be 3 or 4 food trucks, 3 coffee carts. So even if you don't learn anything, you're going to be well fed. So coming in June, we actually have a daytime event because this is Google Analytics. So basically, if you're trying to figure out like what do these reports mean, we'll have a free daytime workshop on the 25th in the afternoon. So we'd love to see you there. And then we're going to actually be talking about online learning and how you can actually do mission delivery online. We'll be doing that in July. That also promises to be pretty spectacular. Again, did I mention free? So get on it. And at the final bit, there's going to be some homework. So maybe you're looking to hire someone. Maybe you have got an announcement or a project you think is super cool and we all need to know about. We're going to give you up to 1 minute at the end of the day to do a bit of community announcements. I told you about that. It's still true. And so now I'm going to actually pass it over to the event producer because, as I said, most of the events here are not planned by me, but rather we pass around to other members of our extended community to basically come up with a topic, recruit an expert, and put the whole event together. And today, that producer is Jean. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Jean.
Thanks, Eli. I can't take the credit because most of the coordination was done by Tonya, who's not here today. But we welcome Lida. Thanks, Lida, for coming all the way from San Francisco Bay Area to be with us today. Yay, West Coast. If you haven't got a handout, just grab one from the back. So that's something that Lida will go through with you throughout the process. So welcome, Lida. Lida Toidi has 11 years of experience in digital marketing, strategic planning, and also program management. She has worked with the tech industry, women in tech, and her experience with the nonprofit, including with Kiva, working with Kiva and Braven. And she also is very passionate about mindfulness. So if you are interested in doing workshop on mindfulness, connect with Lida later during the after drinks. Yeah, and she's very passionate about mindfulness as well as diversity and inclusion. And last year alone, she spoke at 25 conferences and events. So welcome, Lida.
Woo!
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. So just to make sure we're on the right page, please make sure you have this. And the start point is where it says opportunity, but we'll get into that. So again, hi, thank you for all coming here. I'm Lida. I'm assuming you can hear me because this mic is pretty decently loud. I've worked in really large organizations. I've worked in a couple of nonprofits. I've had a couple of nonprofits as clients. Again, it was mentioned, Kiva, Braven, Gladly, and the last one has donated over $1 million to charities alone. So they're pretty impactful organizations. And yeah, today I'm here to give you probably a quite a different lens of marketing for nonprofits than maybe you're used to. So hopefully this will help, because again, most of my last 6 years have been in the tech sector. So this all might be a little bit new, but I'll try to make sure we go through each thing one step at a time. And then I'll definitely take questions during the portion that we'll do the worksheet. So I would ask that you take notes for questions, and then I will walk around and answer questions as they come up. All right, awesome. So I always like to share with people how we'll spend our time together. So that for the next almost an hour, we'll spend some time talking about the actual marketing process that ideally you have started, but if not, that's what we're going to do today with our worksheet and with some more information that I'm happy to share with you. So we'll talk about possible content you could put out, who your stakeholders or your donors might be. And again, this might seem like it would be obvious to you, but sometimes it's helpful to just drill down and get a very clear idea of your donor profile. We'll also talk about channels. Yeah, this sounds good. We'll also talk about channels that you could reach out to your donors through. And then that's when we'll get into this worksheet, double-sided worksheet, and hopefully put all of what we talked about into practice. After which, I'll talk a little bit more about the funnel and marketing metrics in case that's something that is of interest. And I know a lot of this digital marketing lingo might be daunting, so I'll try to break it down. And then marketing tech stack. So Eli mentioned a little bit that that TechSoup has this great partnership with a lot of tech companies, and I'm going to give you some of my recommendations for what an example marketing tech stack could look like for your nonprofit. And then we'll have time again for Q&A at the end, and also during the portion we'll do the worksheet. So a little more about what your stakeholders or donors process might look like. So there's many ways to slice and dice what a marketing funnel looks like. This is one of them. So it goes from, awareness to education to consideration, or where you're providing a solution, to the point that the person is making a decision or a purchase, or in this case might be to actually donate to your cause. So just realize that there are also subcategories under these stages. So it's not as clear as you might think. As a donor finds out about you, they are so moved that they donate right on the spot. There's generally many touch points for any marketing funnel, regardless of whether you're in the nonprofit space, whether you're a B2B company or a B2C company. And just by show of hands, who works in a nonprofit now? Okay, that's everyone. Who works in a business? Okay. All right, there's going to be information that will be relevant for both. So we'll, again, touch on some content. We'll touch on who those stakeholders or donors might be, and the channels by which to get to them. So this is something that's pretty interesting. I find it kind of interesting to think about the fact that a lot of customers have an emotional attachment to brands, whether they're business to consumer brands or business to business brands. And this study was, 3,000 people, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. But you could see that there are even some brands, especially in the tech space, that you'd be surprised that people have like an emotional connection towards. But it's a lot also to do with the fact that once people have signed up with Cisco or with Marketo or with Salesforce, the opportunity cost of them also getting out of that is so high that there generally needs to be that continuous relationship. So this is just to give you a sense of the fact that it's really great to try to pull at people's heartstrings with nonprofit world, but you're also competing with not only all the other nonprofits out there, but also every single other business that's trying to have that same emotional appeal within marketing. So this is just to show you again that though you'd be surprised, there are a lot of customers who actually feel emotionally connected to the brands that they buy from. So an ideal scenario is that your donors also feel emotionally connected to you as a nonprofit. So without further ado, let's get into a little bit more about the customer journey within marketing. So there's a lot on this slide, so I'm going to try to break it down piece by piece. So this is an example for a business-to-consumer company. For most of you, this might seem like quite a stretch, but if you think about it, there are a lot of different tactics and channels that are up here on this slide that you may also think to use within your nonprofits. So again, let's assume, like we are a local apparel shop in Vancouver. I know there's a lot of clothing brands, so I won't name any, but just pick your favorite one in your mind. So we all have our favorite apparel shop. So that's a business to consumer business, right? So they're direct to consumer. But when there's oh, there we go. Let's do business to consumer first. Yeah. So when you're business to consumer brand, a lot of what people might think is in the awareness stage isn't involved with like social or word of mouth. So maybe you just bought some like really well-fitting jacket or something or blazer that you're really in love with, and you tell your friends in person, or you maybe rave about it on social. So that's one very common channel, social media or word of mouth. Another is that people might land on a website that you have as a shop. There's also traditional ways of advertising. So for example, there might be a postcard that, for a specific sale and seasonality of the business, there might be a specific sale that you're sending people postcards to. Also, there might be blogs and articles that are written up about that apparel store or whatever other business to consumer company. Also, there might be like a referral. So I know for a lot of shops, if I were to buy something and if I were to refer a friend, I would get a kickback in terms of like a savings on my end, and then there would be a savings on my friend's side as well. If there's an app, like if you could think of very large retail shops, they all have apps. So there's that app side of things. And then there's the brick and mortar store. And then everything here that's crossed out is in the B2B space, which is business to business. So we'll get into that after this. So just even like if someone has just found out about a new clothing store, there's so many potential ways that you can reach out to this person. So this is just to show you that, again, also as an NGO, you might be thinking of the same old ways to market to your donor, but there's so many possibilities to do so. So in the education space where you're like taking this person on to the deeper and deeper in the marketing funnel, there might be a trial session, which again for NGOs generally is not relevant, but again the person might end up on the website, they might go on and read reviews, again they might refer to blogs and articles, maybe they get an email from their friend or from the retailer to go out to the store, to the retail shop again. So again, even at this point, like if it's a very big purchase, if I'm buying like my next ski jacket or something and it's several $100s, there's going to be different steps in the funnel for me as a prospective customer to take. So again, maybe I end up again like in the loop of checking out websites, maybe doing some online browsing, checking out even more reviews, reading even more articles and blogs. I know I do, even when it's something that is apparel, like I definitely want to make sure that this thing lasts for a while. And then when I finally make the purchase, maybe I just go to the website, I might go to the brick and mortar store, and then sometimes you'll notice that businesses will offer a discount. So there's many types of business to consumer businesses. These are just some of them. So these are some examples of really good marketing collateral. And you're not necessarily meant to read all of them, but just to show you, like Spotify tends to have really great personalized marketing collateral that I find is really inspirational, regardless of whether you're in, again, NGO space or in working in a business. If you are, Shutterstock also has really great marketing. Up by Jawbone or any of these wearable devices tend to have pretty decent marketing. And just to show you that there's so many different ways that you could get a possible customer, right? You can grab their email on a lead form online. You could target them on Facebook, like this financial retirement planner is doing. You could target them on Instagram with Uber or Lyft, which I hope at some point will exist in Vancouver. You could possibly have a referral program. Just to show you, there's so many ways to get a customer to end up in your funnel and to convert for a business. So if we're going now to the business to business side of things, now it's a little bit different, right? So it might be, if you put yourself in the headspace of someone who works at a really large, technology firm, this is generally the type of funnel that they're trying to convert their customers through. So the awareness piece might look like, again, word of mouth. Like I know, for example, for me, my boss was definitely a big contributor as to which technology solutions we use for our tech stack, because that's just kind of the way it is that you might have somebody in upper management who just wants to purchase from a certain company. There might be trade shows involved, again, blogs and articles. Webinars are a really big way to also grab leads for people. And you might think, like, that would never work for NGOs. I can tell you it has worked, because I've worked with clients and I've gotten them a lot of leads through webinars as well. You just have to make sure you have the right type of topic and the right type of audience. Sometimes even white papers sell like really well. There's like an example client that I think they sold over $1 million of business through a white paper that just kept constantly being shared. That's probably not necessarily going to be an area that I would invest in, but just know that if you do invest in like thought leadership, then it can really pay dividends. Social is a piece, is becoming more and more so, but it's definitely, I put it towards the bottom of the content side of things, because again, this is generally you're trying to convince someone who is at work, and ideally they're not necessarily on Facebook and Instagram and being targeted that way. And then last but not least, again, there's traditional advertising. Maybe there's like banners that you put up or billboards in order to convince your B2B customer. When you move people down the line, it might be, again, that they land on your website. You'd hope by this point they're definitely on your website, possibly checking out some reports, possibly checking out case studies that you have put out as this B2B company. You definitely want to have their email by this point. You might invite them to events either at the executive level or maybe webinars for everyone else who doesn't necessarily need to be attending in person. So again, you're getting people to move one step down the line to becoming your customer, which again could be your donor, could be in this case like a B2B client. When someone is considering the solution phase of things, again, there's going to be so much involved with going on the website, getting a product demo, possibly getting a presentation from sales staff, seeing more case studies, maybe reading even like the report that you got before, maybe even getting a trial, finding out some specs about this, specifications about this technology that you're signing up for. Again, getting, like, by this point, you're hopefully in someone's email loop. And again, there's going to be more opportunities to invite people to events and webinars. And then finally, when you're making this purchase, which tends to be quite a big purchase for a B2B customer, you're going to definitely be probably doing some reference checks, finishing up your trial, seeing if you're going to do a pilot with this company. Again, finalizing the information that you've received, whether through case studies, webinars, email, and so on. So just to show you, there's so many different channels that you can approach, some of which I would say are not necessarily relevant for you in your nonprofit, which is why we'll soon get to the worksheet part of things, so you can decide what are possibly some new channels that you've heard of right now that might work for your nonprofit. And again, these are some examples of collateral that are for the B2B side of things. So it could be a white paper, it could be an event, it could be a webinar, it could be an ad, possibly on LinkedIn or elsewhere. It could be some thought leadership through an article that you're you have, or like an actual physical event or trade show. So again, there's so many different channels to get to your prospective donor or your stakeholder who might be your funder. So we went through this. Another thing to note, again, is that this is a pretty long funnel, and there's different stakeholders throughout the process. So think about who are your stakeholders along the line. They might be called different things, but at every stage, there's going to be someone who's championing you as the NGO throughout and saying, like, this is who we want to partner with. So they're going to be involved throughout the time. There's going to be someone usually who's in the C-suite, who might be the CFO, who's only involved at the last possible minute because they have to approve the budget, or they have to just make sure that the partnership or whatever you're doing as the NGO with them makes sense. There's going to be some influencers at the company as well. They're usually involved earlier in the funnel, and they're probably someone like in mid-management who is trying to convince their boss and trying to partner with you as the NGO of whether, again, this partnership, this sponsorship, whatever it might be, makes sense. The user, like the end user of this, might only be involved, and this might not even happen that they're involved until the partnership or sponsorship has been already decided. And again, the ratifier is usually like VP of legal or someone who needs to just like sign on the dotted line and make sure that everything is good to go. So again, realize that your buyers or your donors, your stakeholders, they might have different titles, but you need to map out for yourself who these people are and where are their decision points throughout this marketing funnel, so that you can, as a leader in the NGO, help move them along as smoothly as possible. Again, usually, even if you have both functions within a company, marketing and sales tend to be doing different things, especially considering that marketing tends to be especially owning the first part of the funnel, and historically sales owns the latter part of the funnel. So you also have to take that into account when you're thinking about who your stakeholders are, is who are the people who are actually you need to influence and convince. On the B2C side, again, if we're going back to like a direct-to-consumer company, it's a lot simpler, but it doesn't mean it's easy, because the person generally either goes through the funnel and decides, whether this is the right fit for them or not, or usually, more likely, a lot of people bounce and they don't necessarily convert. And again, marketing is quite a beast when it comes to digital marketing. So just realizing that you need to double down where there's success, and also realize that you can't do everything. So if you try to be like on Instagram and also getting donors and trying to do like email marketing, there's so many facets of digital marketing these days that I would say it pays to know what is going to drive sales for you. So there's like display advertising. So I'm assuming most people know, but who knew that Google ads will give you $10,000 US dollars every month as a nonprofit? Okay, so that's like half of the people. So for the other half of the people, you get 120,000 US dollars for free in Google and display advertising. I'm not saying that everyone needs to be using this, but it's free money, so why not, right? So that could be something that you're deploying, but then you also have to realize like who on our team has the bandwidth to actually run these ads. Do we now have to go and get an agency to run these ads? And that could be something that's worthwhile for you, but just again, it's a lot of decisions that you need to make based on your specific NGO, your ideal donor, and how you're gonna reach them. So that's one thing. If you don't know about it, just if you search for Google nonprofits and sign up, they try to make it pretty simple. So that's one aspect of marketing. There's also like non-branded search, again, and branded search. All of this you could do on Google, you could do on Yahoo, you could do on Bing, whatever, but Google is definitely by far the largest search engine at least in North America, right? Once you get into Asia, there's different players like Baidu, but at least for us, Google will kind of cover you in terms of this side of things, again, assuming that you have the resources to do this and actually like put the ads together. Then there's affiliate marketing, which may or may not make sense for you. That's kind of what's known as influencer marketing, which I feel like a lot of people are trying to double down on. I would say for a lot of, I would generally not recommend it unless you have a very clear strategy for how these affiliates or influencers are going to recommend your nonprofit and what's actually going to come out of it. That's just my humble opinion. There's social media marketing, of course, but again, you have to realize what are the platforms that you're gonna play in. I would pick a couple, and how you're gonna target your ideal donors. Again, email marketing is something that I feel like a lot of NGOs do. One thing I would say is, as someone who loves getting like good emails, I think out of all of the NGOs that I receive emails from, all of them, aside from Médecins Sans Frontières, emailed me like the Monday before Giving Tuesday. So I had like over a dozen emails being like, please give us money. And then the organization that just thought to do it, you know, a week ahead is the one that got the biggest chunk of the money from me, at least. So again, you have to like think of how, like, what is the marketing mix that makes sense for you as the NGO, and don't necessarily try to follow everybody else, because if you follow everybody else, that means you could never really be like leading. So, and sometimes it could be as easy as just sending the email a week before everyone else is sending it, right? So there's a lot of pieces that hopefully the worksheet will help you to get clear on. So let's do that before we head into funnel and metrics. I know I gave you a lot of information. Hopefully this will get distilled pretty quickly. So if you go to the worksheet, I'll walk you through it. There's the first page, which is opportunity, which basically means you briefly describe your nonprofit here. But don't describe it like the website describes it. Describe it to me as if we met in an elevator and you had 30 to 60 seconds to pitch me on getting, I don't know, put the sum of money that you want from me in your head. Like, get me to write a check, right? So try to come up with a very compelling pitch for what your nonprofit does and what differentiates you. The customer donor profile, this is where I would get very, very granular. I think a lot of you probably think you know who your ideal donor is, but give this person a name. Call this person like Donor Dan, who is our ideal donor, or Donor Dana, who is our ideal donor. And think of a day in the life in this person. Like, what is their gender? Again, it could be you have a profile for both. What's their age? What is their job? What are their hobbies? At what time in the day do they, want to interact with an NGO, whether through their email or social? Like, think of really that ideal person. It could be a real person, or you come up with that name and try to give them a real identity. On the segmentation piece, try to think of a pie where the middle, the addressable market, is the entire pie, and that's like all of the funding dollars in all of Canada for all the NGOs, like hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, right? So that's, you probably know those numbers better than I do, but the total addressable market is like the giant pie that you're all sharing. The available market is the pieces of the pie that are relevant for you as your NGO in whatever space you're in. So insert blank. So the available market is, be realistic, like what pieces of the pie can you access? And your beachhead is like, what is the first piece of pie that I want to eat? Whether that's like a grant that is really relevant to us, whether that's a donor that we have had our eyes on who's like a super donor. Just think of this as a big pie and where you can kind of slice the pie and eat the first piece of pie. And the last piece on the first page is the burning need that you're helping resolve. I think a lot of times NGOs don't think about this in this format, but there's something that you are doing that is obviously resolving a need in the market. So if you think of it as a business, this is probably where it's going to be easier for you. So if you think of like your unique selling proposition, what is the thing that differentiates you from the other NGOs who are trying to get the same pieces of the pie, right? So let's start with the first page. And for those who are done really quickly, I will start explaining the second, but I don't want to overwhelm anybody. So does anyone have questions on the instructions for the first page? Okay, I will walk around and I will assist anybody who has questions based on this. So let's spend the next 10 or so minutes on this first page, and then we'll get some brave volunteers from the audience to share, and then we'll move on to the second, and then we'll get back into marketing funnel and some metrics, okay? So a few more minutes for this first page, first side, and then I'll go into the second side and what each of those boxes are. Okay, so by the happy chatter in the room, I'm assuming some people are done. So going on to the next page, the flip side, you'll see the Gotomarket. So it's very tech lingo purposefully because you are going to treat your NGO as a product or a service, you know? So what is your go-to-market plan? How are you going to develop that product? And what are the finances that will hold that up? So the first one, I showed you a bunch of possible channels and tactics to reach your ideal donor or to partner with your funder or stakeholders. So again, decide on who your end, that persona is that you just completed, and what are a few channels, don't like go beyond a few, what are a few channels that you're gonna reach this person? So at that stage, it could be pretty open. So you could say like, we're gonna send them emails, or we're gonna send them postcards, or we're gonna invite them to an event, or we will call them and ask them for money, right? So the channels could stay pretty high level. Relationships, I think this is a piece that a lot of people forget. All of you know a lot, you have a network, both personal and professional. Are there any relationships that you can capitalize on to promote your NGO? And it could be, again, on the same channels where you're like, okay, I know this person who has a tremendous social network, so we might not need to be on social media. We'll just use our relationship with this person to highlight our event that we're putting together, for example. So again, think of some relationships you may have, either personal or professional, that maybe, oh, we know someone who can get us a sponsorship for an event or a discount or something, right? So think of that human capital element of things. And then the strategy is putting the top two together. So it could be, yeah, we know this person who has a really great social media footprint and will get us a discount for this huge venue, and she will help us promote this event that's going to be our main fundraiser for this quarter, right? So get a little more specific into the strategy of what that would look like, what channels and what relationships, if any, you're going to leverage. And then get into the competitive landscape, which you probably have some idea from the first side of things. But if you were to plot the other NGOs on this X and Y axis, which, I mean, you don't have to, there's nothing scientific about it, but maybe like the bigger ones on the right-hand side, and the middle is for the medium-sized ones, the small ones are on the left-hand side, and then the Y-axis might be like how close the focus is to yours. So maybe you're a nonprofit in the environmental space, and there's so many others, but just think of what are the big NGOs in that space, and where are the ones that have the closest focus to yours, and where are the ones that are the furthest in terms of you guys do different things. And this is just helpful to know, because sometimes you can actually partner with NGOs that might have otherwise been your frenemy until that point. And then product roadmap. So how are you going to roll out whatever you had put in terms of your go-to-market plan, right? So we're already Q2. I don't know if a lot of you might have different fiscal years, but if we're doing the normal business year, then we're already in Q2 out of 4 quarters. If you're in the other business, the other fiscal year, then you're Q1. Whatever your fiscal year is, put together 4. So from Q1 to Q4, what are the 4 main actions you're going to take to move forward on this plan that you have? And then last but not least, how is this all going to be funded, right? So your assumptions, they could be, we're going to raise X amount of dollars this year, and it's going to be 50% through individual donors and 50% through grants. Just have some highlights of assumptions. Projections are where you get a little more granular. Again, you break it down into quarters or cycles, where you say, okay, actually, it turns out we're going to need more than this amount from our grant right away, because our donor event is only in Q3 or something, right? So that's where you're really drilling down into what the actual projections of money in the door are going to be. And don't worry if this is not your forte. This is just meant to make it so that it's a lot more tangible, so you don't just think of this huge pocket of money and you don't think of how you're going to get there and how that money is going to hit the bank. So at least break it down into ranges that you know about or you've heard of, or what is your goal? And then after that, if there's still a gap, what are the funding requirements? Do you need to find another grant organization to make up the difference? Do you need to organize another event? Do you need to go after some really big donors? So this is where you're going to realize what is going to be going all the way from assumptions of like, this is what the amount we need, to breaking it down into quarters of what you think will actually be reasonable. And then the requirements would be anything that still needs to occur to make up for any gap. Any questions off the bat for this side of things? Okay, perfect. I will continue coming around. So get started on this, and then I will ask for a couple of brave volunteers to sum up what their insights were after doing this, so you can share whatever piece of the worksheet makes sense for you. So if you want to volunteer, just raise your hand when I'm coming around, and then we'll practice your pitch before you get up here. Okay. All right. So in the interest of time, I won't get people to come pitch, but I'll get people to raise their hands if they want to share what they learned from this, filling this out. What was surprising or what was insightful? And then we'll move on to the latter half of the presentation. Yes. Yes. Great. So segmentation is important. And that's great because I was speaking to someone else in the audience where like you're all tackling very big, hairy problems and challenges, right? So sometimes you need to break that down into digestible things for people. So if you tell them like, we're gonna make sure every person in the world is educated, like that to me is great. That's a great vision statement. But then I want you to break it down into the mission statement, break it down into what are we doing this quarter? What are we doing this year? Because again, so I don't know if you know this, but the average attention span of a goldfish is 7 seconds. Currently, based on studies, the attention span of someone online is 6 seconds. So you have to really fight, because we're worse than goldfish now in terms of our attention online, where, again, most of the people you're capturing, whether donors or end users or stakeholders, it's going to be some form of digital media. And if not, it'll probably be your letter in a pile along with all other letters. And I can tell you the ones that always stand out for me are the ones that make it very simple for me to understand what are they doing, what do they want from me, how can I help? Like, it's really great to have very large, grandiose visions, and please keep those top of mind on those hard days when you need inspiration. But also, you're fighting with the attention spans of goldfish, so you do have to break it down and simplify it. So thank you. Yes, segmentation is important, and knowing what to feature when you're reaching out to people in terms of your many service offerings, possibly. Anyone else before we move on? Yes, Eli.
Well, as a nonprofit person, I don't typically think of myself as being part of a competitive landscape.
Yes.
So that was an interesting stretch for me.
Yeah. So yeah, the competitive landscape actually, again, it's not meant to be like, these are my enemies, I'm gonna put them on this page and then you like throw darts at it or something. It's meant to show you how you differentiate from other players in the market. And actually what's great is, unlike most organizations which are businesses where bottom line is dollars and you're literally fighting each other for who can bring in the biggest revenue, in the NGO space, a lot of times I am surprised that there aren't more partnerships, because you are going after the same, usually triple bottom line, and usually your offering is so similar that I'm just more surprised that there aren't more partnerships. So this is meant to both show you like who's a competitor, but who is also a possible partner. Like, I know for myself in the women in tech space, so I've been living in San Francisco for the last 5 years, and when I went there, I was really shocked, because the one thing that really surprised me is like the total lack of diversity, like in gender, race, everything. Like, it's like the center of innovation, yet everyone is like a 25-year-old dude who went to Stanford. Which I have nothing wrong with that, but it's like you have zero diversity of thought when you have everyone that did the same degrees, had the same profs, like went to the same, parties. So I would go to events and I would just like feel out of place. And then that's why I went to a lot of women in tech events. But then I noticed there's all these silos within women in tech. And then even someone told me like, oh, why would we partner with someone? They're fighting for the same audience. I'm like, isn't the whole point like to increase diversity and like inclusion in this space? And I really made it my mission to try to get people to partner and not replicate each other's work over and over and over again. So if that could be a lesson to you, please try to see this competitive landscape as like a friendly thing, and that possibly at some point your and other NGO friends could actually help you, and you could help each other, whether it's like cross-promoting an event or doing like a fundraising event together or whatever it might be. Helping each other out is definitely a possibility. So thank you. So we'll get into a little bit more about funnel and metrics. In the interest of time, I'm going to go pretty quickly, but you all have my email at the bottom of this worksheet. So if you have any questions after, you can either ask them at the social or you can always email me. So this is just to show you like B2B marketing or just any type of marketing that you're going to do online is going to be quite complicated. There's like the opportunity, there's the account, which is like the actual company or like maybe your stakeholder here, and then all these contacts, and then they're going to get, there's different channels possibly that they're going to come through. There's different campaigns that they're going to see, and this is actually not that much. This is probably like 40 people's information. So just like think of this, and so it's actually much better, I would say, rather than trying to play on all channels and do events and try to rank high on search engine optimization and do really great email marketing and try to do like organic outreach and do webinars. I would start with like 2 and then work my way up to 3 and then work my way up to 4, then 5. Because otherwise, all of these things you're going to lose. Not necessarily, I would just say you're going to lose some resources in trying to spread yourself thin, where I would much rather double down on what is proving to succeed and layering on more complexity when needed. Here are some quick metrics and key performance indicators to get started that you probably have heard of, and if not, you probably will hear of at some point. But obviously, anytime you're putting together an event, it's like, what does that cost? What is your marketing investment? Impressions are how many people actually get to see this ad or this post or all of this. And again, if any of you have gone into the analytics back end of any of these tools, you've probably seen all this where you go onto like LinkedIn posts or Facebook posts or whatever, and you're like, what does the impressions mean? So it's like how many people have actually seen that. Clicks and click-through rate are based on the number of people actually click and engage with that content. Site visitor is pretty self-explanatory, how many people have landed on your site. Conversion rate is maybe perhaps how many people have donated or whatever conversion event has occurred, which for most NGOs is that they donated or they called you or they came to an event. So this is up to you to decide what is that conversion. Maybe what is the absolute number in terms of revenue, or in your case, donations. Maybe what is your target cost per acquisition if you're going to do paid marketing. So if you're going to do that, use your free Google Ads. What is the target cost per acquisition? How much are you willing to spend for someone to actually see this ad and engage with it? What is your return on investment? I think this, out of all of them, this is the most tangible across fields. How much money am I putting into the system and how much money is coming out? Or it could be how much effort am I putting into the system and what is coming out? So it's not always dollars and cents, but always realize what is our return on investment. We organized this event. It took 100 hours to put together. Our goal was to have 500 people and we had 20. So that's like worst case scenario. Or maybe conversely, what happened is we put this event together. We thought we'd get 50 people and we got 100. So what could we do to double down and make sure that we keep up the success? Or in the first case, what went wrong and how can we prevent that in the future? And this is, again, another very crowded slide on purpose to show you if you're trying to be, like I'm a marketer, I've been doing this for 11 years, okay? I cannot know all of the marketing technology landscape. And this is a slide from 3 years ago. This actual graphic. I tried to put the 2019 one and it would have been even more blurry. So just to show you, like, you're not meant to become the Jack or Jill of all trades and know everything about everything in marketing, because even as a marketer, I can tell you that is impossible. What you're trying to do is to find the tools in there that make sense for you and make sure that you capitalize on them, and definitely use TechSoup and Eli's connection with them to I wish I could get those rates, because I could tell you I have to pay full price as someone who doesn't run an NGO. So definitely make sure you get your NGO rates for these. So trying to distill that for you, hopefully this is a much more digestible slide. So this is what I would highly recommend as an example marketing tech stack when you're starting out. So MailChimp is pretty decent. There's a lot of other competitors like Constant Contact. Just any email service provider that is free for the first couple of thousand contacts, whoever it is fine. MailChimp is pretty good because they also allow you to do landing pages. There's a lot of features that they have that are pretty good, considering that I didn't have to pay for my personal MailChimp for a while, because I had like 1,400 contacts and they only charge at 2,000, let's say. So even for personal emails, I have them all within MailChimp because it just makes my life a lot easier. Google Ads, make sure if you're going to do anything with Google that you get your entire credit. So it's like 120K a year, US dollars, so it's pretty decent. Copper is a new tool out there that's also freemium, in the sense that it's free for a while for if you're storing a lot of people's information and it's going beyond what you need on MailChimp, and you want to send people personalized emails that you don't actually have to type out their names and you can tokenize things. That is where I would recommend Copper and or HubSpot. So I've used HubSpot to do a lot of these things. So you can also use this for your marketing automation system and or your customer relationship management system. Again, what it means is you put a bunch of people's information in one place, possibly your donors, and then you are able to email blast or do anything, send them postcards, whatever it is, and get all of the data back in one spot. If you end up wanting to, rank high for on Google, and you want to do so for free rather than paying for Google Ads, I would use a tool called Moz for SEO. Intercom is great for chat or in-app messaging if you have an app, which I guess a lot of people don't. But if you have, for example, ever seen that there's a chat function that pops up when you're on a website, that's commonly something like Intercom. There's also cheaper varieties of this, so I would always just do Intercom alternatives if you want to look for cheaper ones. Optimizely is when you're doing things like A/B testing. You are getting different campaigns, and you kind of this is basically from the beginning to the end is the more advanced you get into marketing. So you could start here and just end your day, and that's fine. And then the next quarter you might do this, and then so Optimizely is if you get to the point where you're doing a lot of experimentation and A/B testing. Ad rolls for retargeting. If again you're using Google Ads and you want to retarget people, this is a great tool. Radius is great for data management and predictive. When and if you're ready, don't feel like you need to use any of these tools earlier than you need to. But again, I hope it's slightly better than this kind of situation where you're like, I don't know what I need to do. I feel like marketing is so intense, and it is, and don't feel like you need to understand it all or know everything, because that's going to be quite challenging as it's changing at very quickly, at the speed of light almost, it seems like. And again, remember that though you have the hard days, tech and startups and nonprofit land are very similar in the sense that we have very ambiguous situations. There's a lot of changes. We could run out of money any day. So though I stand here and I've worked with mostly tech startups in the last several years, I can tell you that I definitely empathize with you in the sense that it takes a lot of grit, it takes a lot of perseverance to do what you do every day. So I commend you for everything you do. And if it does feel challenging, just realize that you are embarking on something that is much bigger than you or anyone in this room. So just realize that you do have a lot of ownership. And yeah, a career in nonprofits is a pretty sweet place to be. And I think that's it. So I stayed within time. So thank you so much for being here today. And yeah, I'll take any questions at Social Hour. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So the question was, what do I use for a marketing dashboard? So I actually create my own in the very, very technical tool of Microsoft Excel that I've been on since 1995. I mean, it's been improving in the last 23 years, but yeah, so that's what I do because I have very specific key performance indicators that I want to be targeting. But I would recommend if you're using the Google suite of products, then Google Analytics tends to be a pretty awesome dashboard because you can you can link it to Google Ads, and it has all of the information, and you can very quickly pull reports, and it's quite visual. You can do a lot of like different types of visualizations, so you don't have to personally go into Excel and make the charts yourself. I just like to have very specific things that I look at on a daily basis, so I have a plug-in to an Excel sheet that I look at every day. But yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? That's a success. Everyone is going to go out there and just raise millions of dollars. And next time we get together, everyone will just be like, I don't have any issues. I have met all of my goals. That would be great. Oh, yeah, thank you.
Going to have to do some homework, which means you're now going to have to come and do a little bit of show off with us. So what we're going to do now is basically something that we call the needs parade, which is basically your chance to come up with up to 1 minute where you get to basically show people a project you're really proud of. Maybe if you're looking to hire someone, let us know here. Maybe you're new in town and you are looking for an organization to get involved with. Come up here and tell us what you're all about. So let me model this for you because it's not terrifying. So here we go. Hi there. My name's Eli, and I'm one of the organizers of Net Squared Vancouver. You all look lovely, but I have no proof of it except for my terrible photos. I want your much better photos to document our future events. So if you're interested in becoming a photographer at these events, please come talk with me. See? That easy. Not that challenging at all. Anyone else got something they want to share? Anyone else? Maybe they've got a gala they're trying to sell tickets to. Maybe they've just launched a really cool app that people should know about because maybe the clients they work with would know about it. I'm looking specifically at Eugene right now, so you're going to have to come up this way. Come on. The new people.
Thanks, Eli. So my day job, I'm working with Peace Geeks at the back there. We are a nonprofit that provide digital tools for the communities in pursuit of peace. So one of the projects that we just launched in March, at the end of March, is an app that's for immigrants and refugees to find settlement services. And we are actually growing as a team. We are funded by Google Impact Challenge grant. So now we're looking for junior developer interns. So if you are interested or if you know anyone who would be interested, you can check the posting at peacegeeks.org. Yeah. Thanks, Eli.
Go to that website. Thank you. Come on up. Come on up. Oh, the cable doesn't go that far. Come over back here.
Thank you. My name is Ramesh Singhal. We have a small endowment called keatca.org, keatca.org, and it stands for Knowledge, Education and Training Canada.org. Now, what we do is provide grants to anybody whose family income is under 30. And we do it not directly, but also through partner organizations like Aunt Leah's here. We do it through Mosaic. We have done it through other organizations like that. We do with McGill. So we are looking for partners actually who are into education. Because when we talk about poverty, There are a million groups who want to feed you, house you, provide shelter, temporary shelter, but there are very few groups who want to provide you a course in hair cutting so that you can go make your own money. So our goal is to create a network of those who believe that education is a gateway out of poverty. So if there are any people who want to join that network, please join us, call us, get in touch with us, send us an email at kiatka150.gmail@gmail.com, and we will be happy, or information at kiatka.org or president@kiatka.org, whatever you feel like, or just come and talk to us. If you are interested in creating that network, we are here for you. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you. Anyone else got something interesting on the go? Come on up.
So I'll first open the site.
Right. Yeah, I can hold that. Okay.
Just, I'll open the site real quick.
While we're queuing people up, anyone else, please come on up. And we'll have room for probably one more afterwards. Okay, there we are. Perfect.
Oh, sure. Go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Leah. My co-board member Christina is here with me. We're from the Arts Council of New Westminster, and we have two positions. One is posted right now for an outreach coordinator, and in the fall we'll be posting for a marketing coordinator full-time. So if you want to keep an eye on our postings, that would be great if you know of anyone. I will also be attending future events, and I'll be facilitating the July 9th event. So if you want to learn a little bit about, thanks Eli. If you want to learn a little bit about how technology can support your education mandates in nonprofits, that's what I do in my professional life. I'm a learning consultant. I work in the e-learning industry, and that's what I help nonprofits do, is look at online solutions to deliver online or in-person blended training. And yeah, just come join us on July 9th. We're going to have a lot of speakers just sharing different use cases, so it'll be very hands-on. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin. Actually, we're running a site and a service for victims of a major genocide. There was a Canadian man who actually who died as a result of this unspoken genocide, and that genocide is happening in India. And here's a bio of that Canadian man who died out of that genocide. There is a huge article. His suicide video is also there of the nature of problems he faced before he had to commit the suicide, and his story that was covered all over India. And basically, this is just a Canadian man who died in India, but there are 90,000 people who die because of this every single year, and we're actually doing something about it. We're building educational platform, we're building outreach programs, and we're building e-learning platforms as well through this platform, which is called Men's Commission. And a lot of women are also getting affected, because when a person dies, they leave behind a daughter or a sister or an old mother that he's supporting. So there are a lot of women who are getting affected because of this genocide. So we're looking for a lot of help, and it's not just money. We're looking for ideas. We're looking for technical skills. We're looking for any kind of platform, and also grants if there are any that are available. Like, thank you, Eli, for sharing the Google grants for us. We were able to subscribe to that. So I encourage you to look at this once, Men's Commission, and then just look for the word Canadian, and you will find this article about this man. And we're just looking for any kind of help, and so please feel free to come and talk to me on this. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Diana. A little bit about me. So I worked in project management and restoration for the past 10 years, and I have left that to pursue my dream of working more with nonprofits, and so I'm currently at BCIT for marketing and event planning. With that, as a board member of Urban Safari Rescue Society, trying to spearhead tons of projects at the moment with my newfound time and knowledge. It's kind of where I'm starting. So what we are is the only exotic animal rescue in British Columbia. We receive absolutely no government funding, but we're expected to take in animals that are abandoned, picked up by the city, confiscated from smugglers, abandoned pets, of course, all those exotic pets that people have no idea how to take care of, and then they ditch them in a pond. We take them all in. So we take them in and we feed them and we shelter them till the end of their natural life. So of course this is very expensive. So fundraising is a huge thing we're looking at right now, and our education program. So with taking care of the animals, we want to educate people on why you shouldn't get that pet, why you shouldn't abandon it, why smuggling is bad, why there's invasive species. And with that education, we have programs like our tours, our presentations, where we actually come to people's homes with a select few animals and talk about them and introduce them. And we have tons of camps and tours to our facility. So right now we're looking for board members. We need different skills. We've been kind of stagnant for the past few years. Really, any skills are welcome. Our annual general meeting is coming up in the next month, which you can find on the website there. And as you can see, a new website I'm currently building. So we're going to be replacing this monstrosity pretty quick. Hopefully to be able to focus a little bit more, it'll be less dense and it'll kind of pop to people. So we're looking for board members. We're always looking for help. Or if you want to come visit us and see our animals, that would be great too. Thank you.
So that is a wrap for this month. So who here knows how to find their way down to the pub? It's called Darby's Gastown. Exactly, that one. I'm looking for 2 people who are going to be our Pied Pipers, the gatherers of the others. Who wants to play that role? Jean, are you excited about that role? Excellent. So in 5 short minutes, Jean, who is at the back and is going to jump and wave and make a big sound, is going to gather all of you who want to join us, and we're going to head over to the pub, have a quick drink, gossip, all that good stuff. If you happen to have dishes in front of you, you would make my life much happier if you were just on your way out, just leave it on the counter in the kitchen area up top. That way we can do the cleanup quickly. I'll probably follow behind with a couple others. We're going to spend about 50 minutes doing the cleanup. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's keep in touch, and I hope to see you at our fancy conference on June 11th. Otherwise, have fun and be good to each other.